Wonder Twin powers activate! In fact, they really need to activate in order to get viewers to start reading this book, because this first issue was more like a meh. Comic book people of the world, it is Wednesday, that means it's comic book day. Let me show you what I got this week. First up is Mr. and Mrs. X issue number 8. Rogue and Gambit, unfortunately, are in the Mojo-verse, or at least like a Mojo world-ish kind of thing. They're being controlled by Mojo and Spiral, and unfortunately their heads aren't completely in the game as they go through different television shows. This comic book is surprisingly a really fun read, maybe because I'm such a huge Gambit and Rogue fan. Next up is Thor issue number 10. Despite this cover, Thor and Odin really aren't getting along so well. We get a bit more of an insight and some of the inner monologues of Odin, where he's been pushing Thor basically his entire life. And even though Thor is the god of thunder, he is very resentful towards his dad and all the ways he's been pushed. So they pretty much duke it out in this issue, which I love. The Flash issue number 64, The Price of Innocence Part 2. Flash and Batman are teaming up to investigate a couple different attacks that have been taking place on the Flash Museum and elsewhere as well, where they find out that Gotham Girl is behind everything. This is also a connection between Barry Allen and Batman, where they're kind of teaming up, trying to figure out everything that's happened at the whole Sanctuary storyline, where a bunch of superheroes have been killed. So it is somewhat like a tie-in with the two storylines, but not exactly. It's kind of a fun story, although I'm much more interested in the actual Heroes in Crisis story instead. Superman issue number 8, The Son of Steel Unleashed. Jonathan Kent went on a pilgrimage with his grandfather Jor-El, and returned back to age to 17 years old. Obviously, Superman and Lois are both really pissed off at Jor-El for doing this. This comic is starting to explore some of the backstory that took place during the years when Jonathan was away with Jor-El. It does look as though he did have chances to return home, but he didn't take them. I've always liked Jonathan, even though I think Connor Kent is my definitive Superboy. I would have loved to have seen some storylines with a young Jonathan and Connor Kent being together, more like a big brother, little brother thing. So I'm curious as to what's going to happen with Jonathan, and if he's going to stay this age, or whether or not he's going to be going off with the Legion when they're ever introduced back into the DC Universe. Finally, let's talk about Wonder Twins issue number 1. This is published by DC Comics, but it's part of their Wonder Comics imprint. This is written by Mark Russell, and it was illustrated by Stephen Byrne. Right off the bat, this comic book is not taken seriously in any way. We see that the Wonder Twins, Zan and Jaina, are introduced, and they're already part of a high school, and they're both trying to integrate themselves into society. They're not hiding the fact that they're aliens in any way whatsoever, but they're also putting it to the point where it's normalized, where the other students really don't care. We get a bit of insight on their planet, Exor. The adults there, whenever there's a thunderstorm, they seem to get really horny, and they get a bit of a thunderlust thing that takes place. Unfortunately for Zan, this is something that happens to him in this issue when we find out that he's coming of age himself. The two do join the Justice League, even though they're not really a part of the team. There's a minor threat going on with Mr. Mixie-Pitalik, or Mixie-Pilik. I absolutely cannot say that name, so I don't know why I even tried. He's taken care of quite easily by the Wonder Twins, who employ the supercomputer, or at least the former supercomputer of the Justice League, which again, we're not really supposed to think about it too much, at least I don't think we are. Both Zan and Jaina do retain their powers, where Zan has the ability to turn into any type of water element, and Jaina is able to turn into any type of animal. So the core concept of everything is here and part of this comic book, but it really wasn't all that interesting, if I have to be honest. I mean, the whole comic book was kind of cute a bit, and it had a bit of a nostalgic factor from the Super Friends cartoon that came out back in the 70s and 80s, but the nostalgic factor only takes us so far. I'm hoping that it'll get much better in future issues, and so that it'll grab my attention and maybe other readers as well. By the way, this isn't the first time that the Wonder Twins have shown up in comic book form. In fact, there was a version of them that showed up in the Young Justice comic book that came out in the 2000s, which I thought was really cool, even though they didn't really speak English though, but they kept the whole alien aspect involved. But anyways, that's my comic load for this week. What did you guys read? Leave comments down below and let me know. But with that, thank you guys for watching me in this video. If you haven't done it yet, check out my Patreon site, check out my social media sites, my websites, and everything else out there. Peace, love, namaste, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.
I'm in love with a hero.
Mr. Mixie-Pitalik. Mixie-Pitalik. Mixel-Plitalik. Mixelplick. That's actually the wrong way of saying it, isn't it? That's from the cartoon from the 1980s. Mixie-Plick-Licks. Mixie-Plix licks. Mixie-Blix, Plix, licks, Mixel-Plix.